personally?
Yeah, it's very special.
Okay.
But I feel like my relationship with God is more of a, I was raised Christian, but one way I didn't really, I've always prayed for spiritual guidance, at the times when I require it. It's easy to about asking for guidance. It's not really the way I don't really worship.
What is your concept of God? How many gods? One, two, many? One God. And why do you say this is one God? What is your reasoning to believe there's one God? It's correct, God is one, but how are you reasoning yourself to be convinced that God is indeed one? What's your reason?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's my reason. It's more it's just the way I was raised, and it's not something that I've ever had to question or felt like I wanted to question. I feel like it's something that's just been the case.
Okay. So if somebody comes along and says, no, God is not one, he's more than one, either they agree with each other or disagree with each other, how would you counter that with reason?
Counter saying that God is more than one.
Yeah, because you can't have both of them to be true.
Yeah.
One God and more than one God cannot be true at the same time.
Yeah. The counter would be that there's one creator.
I give
His job was, I guess, carried out in the way that he intended. I don't know how various gods and conflicting ideas and conflicting concepts would be able to come together and create. I wouldn't have down to the point. I'd have to have a conversation with that person.
Sure. Let me give you some pointers so you can solidify the concept of one God. You see, when we mean by God, we mean God who is the necessary being. God exists necessarily. I mean, he is someone that didn't have a beginning. And if you think about this world that we live in, we are existent beings. We are something. There cannot be a point in the past where there was absolute nothingness. Because if there was absolute nothingness, this absolute nothingness cannot make something. That means if something exists now, there has to be always something. Always, in the past. So either the universe is always something, or the creator of the universe. We know the universe, even as a possibility being that what made us, cannot be the case. Why? Because to make this transformation from one state to the other within this universe, to make a planet or a system of laws operational in this universe, how gravity is defied in such a way by trees and water and goes up the roots to the leaves, right? So there are systems in place. Systems means there seems to be an intelligence behind all of these things. Intelligent designer who has will by knowledge and power to bring about all of these changes that we see. The universe, as understood by materialists, atheists, or scientists, doesn't have self-awareness. It doesn't know it exists. It doesn't have a will. So it cannot do things by itself. But we know transformation of this nature does require these kind of qualities. So the universe obviously could not have been the maker of everything, us and so on. It has to be the one who always existed, the maker of the universe. Yeah? That's why we say the creator, to believe in a creator, is something that makes sense even by reasoning and using our intellect. So that's the maker, the creator that always existed, and he has to have these necessary qualities of self-awareness, aware of oneself, being alive. This umbrella doesn't know that it exists, so you cannot write a poem because it doesn't know it exists, let alone write a poem, for example. So the creator will know that the creator exists, and through his will, power, knowledge will make this world as He's done already. So how many of those creators can there be is the question next. Having understood there has to be a creator, eternal with no beginning. If there are more than one of those creators, necessary beings, then what we say is there will be conflict of will and the world will be totally destroyed, right? Imagine one of those creator who is all powerful, no limitation is power, says, I want now in Speaker's Corner no rain, no wind, sunshine, like you're in a beach. He's able to do that, right? He's powerful. Another creator says, no, I want it like it exactly as it is. What's going to happen? It can't happen, both cannot happen at the same time because there's a conflict of will. But both are able to do what they intend to do because they're all powerful. Here comes the problem. A conflict of will is going to demonstrate to you that there cannot be in reality more than one of those absolute beings. There are two possibilities. Either this world, Speaker's Corner, continues to be like this in rain and wind. What that will mean, the God, the Creator, that wanted it this way is powerful. Powerful enough to maintain it that way. But at the same time, it will make the other Creator not powerful, all powerful, because he failed. It failed to make a sunshine like in a beach. If the other option is true, where now it's like a very sunshine and like you're sitting on a beach, then that Creator which wanted it to, Speaker's Corner, to be like that is powerful. But that would make the other Creator not powerful because he failed to make it into like a sunshine and so on. So if you think about it, in any examples that you bring, there cannot be more than one Creator. And our world actually demonstrates that there is a uniformity of will. That's why you can see, we can predict tomorrow the sun will still rise from the east. Because there's one governor, one controller, one Creator who is making sure it follows in this way. The sun doesn't suddenly jump around like this, the earth doesn't spin the other way because other gods want it a different way. Yeah? Suddenly the earth disappears, it's destroyed because other god says, I don't like this earth anymore, too much polluted because of people. It doesn't happen like this. So there is clearly a uniformity of will demonstrating that there is only one Creator in this universe. So that's why monotheism, believing in one God, is rational, reasonable, and intellectual. And this is the belief of Islam. In Christianity, in Hinduism, in Zoroastrianism, and many other belief systems, they have multiple gods in their belief system.
That's not true. We only believe in one God.
For example,
Constantinople, we believe in one God. That's how we start. So don't lie about.
For example, in Christianity, they believe Jesus is God. Jesus is God. Now, this God, start your magic, no problem. It doesn't work. This God, Jesus Christ. Okay. This God, Jesus Christ. Are you listening? Yeah? This God, Jesus Christ, is a God. The Father is a God, and the Holy Spirit is a God. They share all the qualities you need God to be God. Yeah. If you are can I call this umbrella a human being? It doesn't have the qualities of a human being. Yeah. But you have the qualities of a human being. Likewise, God to be God, he has to have qualities of a God. That is, being independent, self-sufficient, all perfect. If you examine this concept of God and assess the belief of Hinduism or Christianity, like this gentleman earlier on was saying, Christianity and Hinduism will fall apart in reason. Do you know why? Because Jesus Christ, in their belief, is not self-sufficient. Needs the Father, depends on the Father, eternally begotten of the Father, atemporally, without a beginning. Without the Father, the Son would not even exist. This is the dependency. So, alhamdulillah, be here, inshallah, this gentleman, inshallah, you will see, God willing, his heart is very close to Islam. Right. So, Jesus Christ has the attributes given to by the Christians as God, and yet some of the attributes of God he lacks. Self-sufficiency or aseity. Ask a Christian to come and discuss with that. You will say, they will agree. Jesus Christ lacks self-sufficiency. So first thing, before even they come and discuss with us, the condition to speak with us is, do you affirm Jesus Christ is self-sufficient or not? If they don't affirm, then there's no discussion. But they have to have an answer. So if Jesus is not self-sufficient, then he cannot be God. Because God has to be independent, right? He has to be self-sufficient. But in this belief system of Christianity, or in a polytheistic belief system, you'll see there are many gods with all this conflict of will. The example I give often is this. You see these, the leaf or this branch there, twigs. One God is able to lift it up to 1 meter. Powerful enough to do that. Can that twig still be lifted up to 2 meters at the same time by another God? The answer is yes. Where is this going to go? 1 meter or 2 meter high? Even that thing, small mundane thing, to lift up a twig, a branch of a tree, now you have a problem. Because if there are two gods, there could be more. If there are two gods, then each god should be able to lift it up to 1 meter and 2 meter at the same time simultaneously. Where is it going to go? If it goes up to 1 meter, that means the other god that wanted to 2 meter high, failed. If it went up to 2 meter, that means the god that wanted it 1 meter failed. Yeah. That means only one of them is powerful. So in any way you can think about it, there cannot be more than one God. So this belief system, when you examine whether it's Trinitarian Christianity, Hinduism, all this Zoroastrianism, the God of good, God of evil, all of this belief system, your heart and your mind will reject. Why? Because it doesn't resonate. Truth will resonate with your heart and mind. Yeah? It's Judaism, God is like an advanced Jew in heaven, in the Talmud, okay, reading the Torah and losing oftentimes a debate with the rabbis. Yes. That belief system is really, that belief system is corrupted to that level. The belief they have that God put a rainbow in the sky so that when he looks at the clouds and sees this rainbow, it will remind him. He created the earth and the heavens in 6 days, and he had to rest on the seventh, and he rested and refreshed. Not just resting, but he refreshed. This is the belief system of the Jewish people, and the Christians took it likewise. So we say the original belief system about God, they had it. They believed in one God, but they polluted and corrupted this belief system. So, my friend, what's your name? Luke. Does it make sense to you now that there is only one God and there can only be one God? Absolute, independent, only one. Yeah?
I mean, I've always had that belief.
Yeah.
I like the way you described it.
Yeah, remember what I said, to solidify. You already believe in it. Yeah. But I wanted to know you to be reasonably convinced of the other belief systems which doesn't believe in one God. So you have now a solid grounding to reason and affirm your belief in one God, because it makes sense and truth must make sense. Now, if I were to tell you, throughout human history, this has always been the message of all the prophets and messengers that came. Believe in one God and worship none else. Reject all false gods. This was one of the essential duty or a role of a prophet and a messenger. Jesus was one of those prophet and a messenger. Moses was one of those prophet and a messenger. Abraham was one of those prophet and a messenger. Peace be upon them all. Right? In their footsteps, God sent his final prophet and messenger, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay? He came with proof and evidence for his message. Because otherwise, anyone can believe in anything. They might believe, oh, maybe Harry Potter is the prophet of God. You know? So, what was the proof and evidence the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam brought of his message? He, being someone who is unlettered, didn't know how to read and write, brought the Quran to them, which totally mesmerized the Arab community at that time. Because they were very much excelled in their expertise in linguistics, in literature. They excelled to such a level that they can recite poetry. If they recite poetry about a woman, describing how this woman is so beautiful and loving, you'll fall in love with her. If they describe about a sad event, a sorrow, you'll start weeping and crying. If they describe about an enemy that is so much against you, you will be ready to fight them. This is the power of language and linguistics. They excelled in their abilities. When the Quran came to them in the same Arabic language, And God says, if you don't believe that this is from God, send to his slave, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, produce something like it, a chapter like it. A chapter, the smallest chapter is how short? It's like 3 sentences, right? Short sentences, literally. I mean, there are sentences in the Quran or ayah like 1 page long, but in this case, the shortest chapter with a very short ayah or sentences. What was it then impossible for them to be incapacitated, not to bring anything like it? They were masters in their language. What prevented them? What prevents people today to bring a chapter like unto this Quran? So the Quran gave a falsification test. Okay? So what I'm saying is, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam brought proofs and evidence, and out of these there were falsification tests in which you can falsify the Quran. Because if it wasn't from God, you will be clearly seeing it. For example, do you think a book from God will contain mistakes? No. Of course not, because God is all knowledgeable. Yeah? It's okay. God is all knowledgeable, right? God is all knowledgeable. So he would not make mistakes of history, mistakes in science, because it doesn't make sense. How can God make such a mistake? Because he's supposed to be all knowledgeable. So a book which gives you the test, saying, look, if this book did not come from God, was from other than God, then you will surely find within it many discrepancies, many errors and discrepancies, many ikhtilafan, right? It gave this falsification test. So what people should have done, as they are doing for the last 1400 years and 45 years or so, 1445, 46 years, they had the opportunity to find a discrepancy in the Quran. Because if they do find it by real, not superficial reading, real deep reading and contemplation and reflection, then they can say safely it cannot be from God according to the very standards of the Quran.
Single error.
Yeah, according to the very standards of the Quran. So the Quran, so this is the second example. Let me give you another example. There was someone, Quran says, Tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tab. May the hands of Abu Lahab perish. Okay? He will be doomed. He'll go to hellfire. This individual had an opportunity to say, I can disprove Islam. Simple. I don't even have to believe inside in my heart Islam is true. As a hypocrite, I can just simply say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. That's how you become Muslim. Declare Islam. Say, I bear witness that there is no God worthy of worship except Allah, and Muhammad is his servant and his messenger. He becomes a Muslim and he falsifies the Quran because Quran says he's going to go to hell. What happened then? He had opportunity for 1 day, yes he did. 1 month, yep, he had the opportunity. 1 year, yeah, he had opportunity 1 year. 2 years, yep. 10 years. He had the opportunity to come up with that statement, but he didn't. He could have destroyed Islam without fighting Islam by simply saying that, because your Quran says so, that I'm going to go to hell, but I'm a Muslim.
How can I go to hell?
How does the author of the Quran know that this individual would not even as a hypocrite come and profess this faith to destroy Islam? So these are falsification tests the Quran offered then, and this falsification test about producing a chapter of the Quran is open until the end of the world. So this is why we say this is the evidence of Prophet Muhammad's prophethood. Yeah. What did people think about him before he was a prophet? Now let's examine that. Did they think that he was one of those people who cheated and lied and who did all these things, bad things? No. They considered him as one of the most upright character individual. They even called him with an epithet, As-Sadiq Al-Amin, the most truthful, trustworthy one. They would trust even the enemies, for example, later on, after he declared his prophethood, they will keep their possessions with them as a trust. And they know that he will return to them. He will not break their whatever is entrusted. And he always spoke the truth. So when God made him a prophet by declaring him as a prophet of God, at one point he went to one of those hills in Mecca, okay? And he called them, Ya Sabaha, and something along this line. This is how...
about morning for everyone.
Yeah. This is a call if the community is in danger. So when you start calling like this, people left whatever they were doing. You are studying, you leave your study. You're working, you leave your work. whatever. They will all come today and gather around. It's just, why are you calling us? You know, various people made many comments. Why are you calling us essentially? He says, look, what if I told you, behind this mountain there's an army waiting to attack you? Would you believe? Guess what they said? Of course we would believe in you.
Because we never
We've never experienced any lie from you. Of course we'll believe in you.
Right.
This is their testification of his character being truthful. But of course when he said, okay, no, at that point, up to this point, and when he said, now God has made me a prophet, God wants you to worship one God and reject the worship of all these false gods, then they stood against him because it went against their economy, their business, their, interest,
traditions, everything.
and so on and so forth. Because it's all about being, like imagine now you have an idol worshipping business and someone comes along and says, no, your idol is false. You're going to be out of your business. So this is one aspect of the reason why they didn't want to. Another aspect of traditions and the honor and associated things with it. That's why they started
For example, they
opposing
had
him.
a class system, which is, for example, there is elite people, there are common people. Those are not similar. They're not in the same level. So Islam calls for just justice, and as well Muslims to be human beings to be equal, regardless of their background, regardless of their color, ethnicity, and all of these things. And that's basically a destruction instrument to their community that they wanted. They don't want this, and Islam is calling for this. And this is what we recently discovered in the Western countries. This is the solution in order for being a citizen or being someone who belongs to a country. They discovered this recently. Islam was calling for this. Of course, they will not accept such, concepts, because basically someone who is elite, someone who is a master, will be equal to someone who is his servant. So that's why they rejected that.
Yeah. So come back to his assessment of his prophet. If he was not really a prophet of God, someone who's lying, someone who's making things up, then we would need to know what his motive was.
Right.
We can assess him. What's the motive with someone who'd be trying to make himself a prophet? What kind of things he's gaining? Maybe some kind of political gain, material gain, maybe fame, maybe honor, maybe power, maybe wealth, and so on. All of that was offered to him. He rejected it. All of that was offered.
Yeah.
They said, look, stop calling us to worship one God and to abandon our idols. What do you want? Do you want money? We'll make you the most rich among us. Do you want women? Just name them. Because they had the authority to do that. Because they are the elders of the tribes at that time. Whatever they say will happen, right? Do you want to be the king? We'll make you the king. So if he was an imposter with all these material gains, that's the golden opportunity. You should say, yeah, that's it. Make me the king.
Wives than anybody else could, though. Didn't Muhammad have more wives than regular Muslims?
At that time, if he wanted women, name them. That's what they said. Just name any woman you want. They will give it to them. So he rejected all of that. He says, no. At one point he even said, if you gave the sun on my one hand, right hand, and the moon on the other, I would not reject this call of calling you to one God. Okay? So he abandoned that. He rejected their offer. So that shows there that he is someone sincerely calling people to God. Now, so that's his character, integrity. What about things he brought? The Quran, I gave you the falsification test. People need to really ask themselves, how is it impossible to imitate something like this Quran? Because of the structure of the Quran. Quran came in such a linguistic structure, it defied the Arabs at that time to compose something like it. You know, when you compose some kind of poetry, there is a rhymes and styles, rhythms, rhymes and style. These are the stylistics. The Quran came in such a style, which is totally unknown to them. And they cannot even match that. Even to this day, the Arabs cannot match something like that, speaking like that. I mean, if I were to speak like a gibberish, you will say it's gibberish. If I was to speak in a language, make a language like this, like a child speaking, but the Quran is not gibberish. It's the most eloquent way of speaking, and yet it is Arabic and not able to be linked with any of the styles of Arabic language. So that's why people are struggling even to this day to make something like it. This itself is an evidence of its divine origin. That's the Quran says. If it wasn't from God, you should be able to make it. Now, what does the other things the Quran say? The Quran addresses people, and the Quran says, look, do you not see? The heavens and the earth was joined together as one piece, and God every living thing from water. Would they not believe? It's addressing the unbelievers, that there's a common origin of this earth and anything beyond this earth. the stars, the galaxies, and everything was one together, and there was a strong separation. We know this is to be the case today, but in his time and others, the universe it is a static universe. The Greeks believed in that, okay? Every living thing from water, there was no such belief around. There are people who believed in the elements of the earth, the fire, the air, the ether, the water, and so on and so forth. But when the Quran says no, life, God originated from water, how did the Quran know this? Because that's the case, by the way. You need water for life. Yeah. Describe me a mountain. I'll just give you some examples. Describe to me a mountain. The Quran does describe a mountain, but how would you describe a mountain? Make it simple. Or make it as complicated as possible. It's up to you. Is a mountain a flat surface? Is there a mountain there, this park? That's not a mountain. No. What's a mountain? It's an elevation of the ground.
Right.
That's what a mountain is. The Quran says, no, mountain is not like that. Mountains are like pegs. When you go like these tents, for example, there are pegs that are tucked underground. Much of it is underground. Only what you see is the tip of the iceberg. And that's precisely what an iceberg is. You only see the tip and the rest of it is underground. Mountains are like that according to the Quran, where you only see a little bit at the top, most of it is underground. Would you be able to see a mountain like that by going to any mountain? You go to Everest, K2, you will not even imagine that most of it is underground. It's beyond human comprehension. You can't dig and start thinking, actually, whatever is at the top, more is underground, because you can't dig that deep. So at that time, even very recently, people had no clue how to think that mountain has roots that goes far down than the top surface. Yeah. With a lot of sonars and other things, now we have the technology to see how far the derivation is on the ground. And the Quran describes this is how the mountains are. How could someone know this? The question is, the Quran says it's from God. These are the information Quran offers for people to think and reflect that, look, this book demonstrates to you that it's from the knowledge of God, that His words, so that you can believe in it with evidence rather than just blind faith. So we have talked about many things. This is Prophet Muhammad brought. He called people to worship not him, but to God. And he says he was a messenger of God, and this is the evidence of his prophethood and messengership. What do you say about that?
I'm very interested to read the Quran.
We came here, we were trying to find the Quran.
Trying to find one for a long time.
Yeah. What is it now for you to see any more than what we have offered? We've given you evidence for God's existence and His monotheistic existence, being one in His existence. We've given and the evidence for Prophet Muhammad being a prophet of God through falsification tests and additional evidence through science and natural phenomena. Yeah. So you already have at your disposal enough to make a decision where the heart and mind knows where this is truth or not. Ask your heart and mind. And now I'll ask the Sheikh to continue to really see how you make sense of these things. Tafaddal. How are you, brother?
Wallahi, this young man wants to take picture.
Inshallah.
Just remind me what's your name.
Thank you.
Brother. A few questions, then you will understand. Then I will understand where is your position. You will know where is your position. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you believe in God?
I do.
One God, the creator of the heavens and the earth. And that one God deserves to be worshipped alone with no partners. Do you believe in this? Now, do you believe in the prophets, that God has sent prophets and messengers to us to convey His message to us? Like has sent Noah, has sent Abraham, has sent Moses, has sent Jesus to be prophets sent by Him. Do you believe in this? You believe that?
That's what I was raised.
I'm asking, do you believe, not just what you do you believe this? That God has sent, because of God wanted to be worshipped, He will send us the message, correct? So He had to send a messenger to us to convey the message, yes? So He had sent a message. Now, the last and final thing, do you believe that after what the brother has said about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, do you believe that he is one of the, do you think he's a liar?
No.
Okay. If he's not a liar, that means he's truthful. Correct?
Yeah.
He claims to be a prophet sent by God. Do you believe this?
The claim.
That's his claim. He said, I'm a prophet sent by God.
Yeah.
So do you believe this?
That he was sent on his claim.
Yeah. He is sent by God.
Now, he believes in the claim. So there's a
My
difference.
point is, since you said he's not a liar, that means he said the truth. Yeah. What he said about himself, he was sent by God.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that claim, since he's truthful, that means that claim is true. Correct? Yeah. That means your position, you believe he is a prophet sent by God. Yes. Am I right?
Because he's not a liar, according to you.
Because he's not a liar.
Take some time to digest that.
Yeah.
It's more.
Would God allow someone to lie in his name that he is a prophet, official prophet?
And by the way,
Supreme all-knowledge God.
he has sent, he told us many prophecies, and all of them being fulfilled. When they were in the Arab Peninsula, which is amongst people who used to be cited by the others as insignificant people, as people worthless, as people they are not even worth to go to them. He was saying from that peninsula, saying, this faith, this Islam, was going to reach between the East and the West. And he said there will be no house made of bricks, or made of wood, or made of wool, except Islam will penetrate it and will go into it. Do we now living this time that Islam reaches between the East and the West? So there are Muslims all the way from China and Japan, all the way to Canada, and all the way to even Alaska, and even all the way down to Africa and all around the world. Now that's what he said. Is this prophecy being fulfilled?
Yes.
So, do you think someone who's a liar, this prophecy will be fulfilled?
No. And there's a lot of lack